it's about performance. Oh, it's about performance. Yes, it's about performance. It's about performance back on the job.
Hi, this is Guy Wallace, and this is the Pursuing Performance Podcast. Welcome. It's been a long way, a long road, to the short way home. What I'm talking about is a newsletter from Praxis, the consulting firm of Geary, Rummler, and Tom Gilbert back in the 1960s and 70s, when they had titled the lead article in a newsletter from September and October 1970, Guidance, the Short Way Home. I read this 1970 newsletter article in 1979, and 9 years later, Guidance was already better known as Job Aids. Later, it became Electronic Performance Support Systems, or EPSS, and then shortened to Performance Support. But I've also had clients who called it Quick Reference Guides and Informal SoPs. I myself called it Performance Aids back in 1999 in my book, Lean ISD. I called it Performance Aids instead of Job Aids for the very same reason that I had given to Joe Harless, who had challenged me once about why I was calling job models performance models. And my response to him was that I was most often analyzing the performance of multiple jobs and documenting that, and I didn't want to call it a jobs, plural, model. I wanted to call it what it was, truly was, a performance model, which might capture and could capture and did capture most of the time the roles and responsibilities of many, even those beyond the target audience for instruction or training or learning purposes, that I had been engaged to produce. I wanted to get it holistically. I wanted to know who was in the sandbox of performance. I always thought that it was helpful for the performer, who is a learner in a learning context, to understand the roles and responsibilities not only of themselves, but also of all the other performance players in that sandbox of performance. I mean, who is supposed to be doing what and when? When am I supposed to be involved? Etc., etc. When I joined a training organization right out of college in August 1979, I was told that we weren't going to do traditional training. We were going to do job aids. So that's what we did in our first project. Our client hated it, and we had to default to sneaky trick number 27, which was to embed the job aids into the training, thereby giving the clients what they wanted and giving the learners, who are really performers, what they needed back on the job. In my experience as an external consultant conducting hundreds of analysis efforts for over 300 projects, most of the time the performance context does not demand a memorized performance response. It allows for a referenced performance response. So there is time for people to refer to guidance or job aids or performance support or whatever it is that you have to call it in your context. For far, far too long, the training or learning function has forced people to memorize what they did not need to memorize. It's impossible to memorize everything that we shovel at learners who, when they go back to the job as performers, don't have it committed to memory, that old forgetting curve thing. Back in those early days in the business for me, the technology was not sufficient to allow easy referencing. The big deals back then were simply, hey, we laminated the job aids so they wouldn't get all finger smudged, and that was it. That was the extent of the technology, lamination. But today there's really no excuse for not providing performance guidance for the critical tasks that people have in their jobs. The only time you really get together, in my opinion, in face-to-face or virtual sessions, is when we need to practice and get corrective and reinforcing feedback, and sometimes that's in the use of a job aid or performance guide or performance support or, again, whatever you need to call these things. I was exposed to the concepts of job aids and guidance, not only through the Rummler and Gilbert article, but through a guy named Barry Booth. I saw him at an NSPI chapter meeting in Detroit in either late 1979 or early 1980. Barry worked for Caterpillar in the manufacturing plants where they produced the big earth-moving equipment. He told us in the session I attended about his guidelines for producing job aids, and he had some pretty funny stories about how he had to fight with management and the safety people about his desire to place job aids right on the machinery that people were operating so that it was right there in front of them for easy referencing, for reminding them safety issues, etc. That all made great sense to me. It's akin to walking by people in a cube farm and seeing all the different Post-it notes that they have on their monitor, providing them with the shortcuts or guidance, if you will, that they need to do their jobs, things that they couldn't or didn't really need to commit to memory. In the mini-book that I wrote about performance guidance, I classified the types of guidance in the following manner. There are 3 types: the directory type of performance support or performance guidance, the example type of performance support or performance guidance, and the reference type of performance support or performance guidance. The directory type is the simplest and most familiar form of performance support. A directory can be a checklist or a set of worksheets or a list of instructions or even an audio or video guiding the performer step by step. Guidance from a performance support standpoint is also used when the job requires judgment rather than a structured procedures and helps the performer weigh certain variables in making a better decision or a selection between generated options. The example type of performance guides in most cases gives the user performance support with one or more examples that they can refer to when making decisions about the task at hand or producing something. It's a model, if you will. The reference type of performance guidance provides data or interpreted information, such as a phone number or address directory, or provides visual aids, such as a map or floor plan. The emergency escape route is the one we should all be familiar with. Check your context for where that is right now. Have you memorized it, or are you going to rely on that should it become necessary? This type of performance support augments the performer's current knowledge and skills with data and information not possible to memorize because of the details or because of the volatility of the data or information itself. And of course, there are blends of the 3 types. Again, the most typical are the directory type: cookbooks, worksheets, checklists, decision tables, flowcharts, etc. You're all familiar with those, I'm sure. Back to the example type, there might be correct and incorrect examples and worked examples, building blocks, if you will, where layer upon layer of the information is added to, for example, a worksheet. First you start with this information, then you work on this, then you do this, then you document that, etc. One of the questions that comes up about performance guidance or performance support is push versus pull. Will the performers who need the performance support have access to the repository or source for that? And will they be able to pull it at the point of need? Or would it have been better for the performance support to already have been residing on their device because it had been previously been pushed? Deployment and access decisions regarding push versus pull means are again a decision that a design team of master performers can immediately determine. They represent the target audience at a level of mastery of whatever it is that's being addressed. They know. So ask them. Have them co-design and co-develop these performance support or performance guides, or again, whatever it is you need to call them. Thank you for listening. Cheers.
It's about performance. Oh, it's about performance. Yes, it's about performance. It's about performance back on the job. It's about performance.